Hello scrappers and planet lovers, Tin Man here with another video. So I've recently received several messages from viewers stating that they are interested in scrapping, they're interested in getting into it, and if I could offer them some tips and tricks to help them along on their journey. So I'm happy to do so. So in honor of them, as well as this being my 200th video, I want to kind of go back to the basics. As you can see behind me, I have a number of items, and they are split up into common categories you're going to find at a scrapyard. So I do want to address those points. Scrapping can be a profitable hobby, if you will, or a side job, and it is very important that you know your material. Unfortunately, I have seen a lot of amateurs go to the scrapyard with all their material put into one big truckload. It's not sorted properly, and unfortunately the scrapyards don't have time to sort it for you, so they give you low-grade price and you are potentially losing out on a big profit. So you definitely need to know your material. Another nice thing about this is great for the environment. Everything you see here I have actually found on garbage day. It is unbelievable how much people throw out, which brings me to my next point. Before you scrap something, check to see if it works. I have found a number of fans and lights or lamps, air conditioners, microwaves, vacuums that work perfectly fine. And I have been able to donate a number of them to places like Goodwill. As well, I have also sold a number of them online as well as yard sales. So you definitely want to check if it works first, because you are going to make a lot more money selling these items in good workable condition than if you were to bring them in and get scrap metal price. So that is another tip that I want to talk about, is make sure you see if it works first. As you see here, I'm going to start with my most common item that people find, and that is classified as tin or shred. Tin and shred right now in Canada is going for about 10 to 13 cents a pound, actually in Ontario where I am. And that is an excellent price. It's continued to stay high like that. I've never seen it that high, so it's a great thing. Very, very common, very easy to recognize. If I take a magnet, as you can see, it's going to stick to the material. So just a piece there. This is out of a computer tower. Things like your washing machine outer coating or outer panels, your microwave panels, these are going to be tin shred. As well, I have some pots and pans that are magnetic, so this is going to be tin shred as well. I have some ductwork that I always find on construction sites. Again, it is magnetic. So tin shred being the most common item. Another one going with your magnetic material is going to be what we call steel. And in order for something to be classified as steel and not tin or shred, it deals with the thickness of the material and more with structural beams. As you can see, this is a large bar. In order to be classified as steel, the material has to be thicker than 1/4 inch. So a lot of your structural poles, trampoline poles are another good one that would go into steel. As you can see, it is magnetic. So that is going to be steel. And steel is a little bit higher in price than tin and shred. A lot of times people will throw it all in together, especially if they only have a little bit of steel. So they're losing out on a couple pennies, but you know, it is, if you have a large load of steel, it is worth a little bit more than tin or shred. So again, has to be thicker than 1/4 inch. Another item that I actually don't have here that you see, unfortunately, some people put into the scrapyard in a mixed load are your rotors from cars or trucks. Rotors are actually their own category. They're called autocast. They are worth more than tin or shred or steel. So you definitely want to make sure you separate those from your steel pile. And it's a good amount more. It's usually about 15 to 20 cents more than tin shred. So especially if you have a number of them, I just brought in 80 pounds of those and got about $20 worth. So good price for that, and definitely want to make sure you separate it. The next card category that I want to look at is stainless steel. Stainless steel is, if it's classified as good stainless steel, it is non-magnetic. As you can see here, this does have a bottom that is magnetic, and you've got to be careful on that. Even though it reads stainless steel, if I put a magnet to it and it sticks, it is going to be classified as the same price as your tin shred. So you do want to make sure. Don't just assume because it reads stainless steel that it's going to be completely stainless steel. So if the magnet sticks, there's not enough coating on that to deem it stainless steel price, so it's as good as tin shred. This one, as you can see, put a magnet to it. This is going to be good stainless steel. And I'm looking, it doesn't say stainless steel on it, but again, non-magnetic. Another common item from stainless steel that you're going to see are pieces from gas hoses, if you will. Again, non-magnetic. The pieces of gas pipes, I find a lot of them on construction sites. Good piece of stainless steel. And I think right now at the scrapyard I go to, it's about 80 cents a pound, so that's a great price. So you've got tin shred, steel, stainless steel. Moving on into aluminum. There are a number of different types of aluminum. The first one, most common you're going to find of the aluminum, are pop cans. Pop cans right now have increased a ton in value. I remember 2 years ago it was about 50 cents a pound. In London, Ontario right now, they're going for $1.34 a pound. So great thing to find. I find a lot of them in the ditches. Unfortunately, I obviously drink a lot of bubbly and different beverages. So easy to store up, easy to bring in for scrap value, and a great price. So pop cans. I also have a number of things. You have clean aluminum. Clean aluminum, this is just off of a fan blade. Aluminum is non-magnetic. Piece of the dryer vent, non-magnetic. Some of your trays and baking pans, some of them will say aluminum on them. Some of them won't. But clean aluminum, the nice thing about this, and I do want to quickly show a demonstration. I've had some people say, well, what's the difference between aluminum and stainless steel? How do you tell the difference? The nice thing, and I've done this in other videos, but I do want to do it again, I use what we call the spark test. If I put a grinder to both of these, aluminum does not spark. Stainless steel will. So just for this video, I do have my grinder set up. I'm going to show you the difference. I have my safety glasses. So this is an aluminum tray. Does not spark. There is my stainless steel bowl or pot. So there is your difference between clean aluminum and your stainless steel. Stainless steel does produce a spark. So clean aluminum. There is another category of aluminum called sheet or siding, aluminum siding, so off of your houses and stuff. I've brought a lot of that in. I don't have a piece of it here beside me, but that's a great price as well, and that's its own category. I think it's over $1.20 right now. So aluminum siding, clean, free of screws or nails. Another category is called extrusion. Extrusion is a form of aluminum, and this is easily recognizable. This is aluminum that it looks like it's been put through a press. As you can see, lots of grooves in that. These actually I find a lot on different circuit boards as aluminum heat sinks. You will get them from your window frames there, your screen doors, your tracks from bathtubs and things. So extrusion. And there are different categories. This is clean, so it's the gray look. Unfortunately, I don't have a piece of painted, but you do find some, especially in bathtubs and stuff, that are painted yellow to look like brass. So they are a couple cents less, but you know, this is extrusion. And another type of aluminum is called cast aluminum. Cast aluminum also has gone up a nice chunk. Cast aluminum, as you can see, a lot of frying pans, your old black colored barbecues, cast aluminum, very heavy. I actually have about 10 barbecues waiting to go that are done. I'm going to bring my load in as soon as the snow melts off of it. But again, this has gone from about 50 cents a pound to currently about 75 cents a pound. So cast aluminum is a great price right now to sell. And as I said, a lot of your frying pans and different items will be cast aluminum. And again, non-magnetic. I have Christmas lights. Christmas lights are their own category that you can bring in. Right now in London, Ontario, I think they're about 46 cents a pound. Find a lot of them. Christmas is just over the last 2 months. People are throwing them out because they don't work. I do have a video actually showing you how to upgrade these. You can actually bring them in as this, but in my opinion, better priced if I take the time and clean these. Like I said, if you're interested in that video, go check that out. Brass is another common item that you're going to find. Brass, there are two different types. You have yellow brass, as you can see, very easy to recognize here, just different pieces that I have. Some of your taps, definitely brass. As well, you have some that are coated with nickel. A lot of your prongs from your power cords are they're brass, but some are the yellow brass, some are the coated. They are put together, and brass right now is actually going for $3.35 a pound, which is a great price. You do want to be careful. You do want to make sure, just because something looks yellow does not mean that it's going to be brass. So you do want to scratch it. If I scratch this surface, as you can see, inside of that, there is yellow inside. So this is brass. I have seen some that once you scratch it, if it looks metallic underneath, then it's just painted to look like brass. So be careful on that. So you have yellow brass, again, together. There is red brass and there's other types, but this is your more common type of brass, and it's a great thing to find and to scrap. Another item, your what we call scrapper's gold, your copper. There are different classifications of copper that we have at the scrapyard. We usually classify it into number 2 copper, number 1, and Bare Bright. Bare Bright being the highest value, the shiny penny look, if you will. And all three are an excellent price right now. It's the best thing to find in terms of profit. And what I want to do is actually go through some of them. And I do want to address a question that I've had about Bare Bright. Bare Bright only pertains to copper wire. So any type of pipe, this is nice and shiny and clean looking. Pipe, unfortunately, does not classify as Bare Bright. This would be number 1. Okay, so Bare Bright only pertains to copper wire that is thicker than 16 gauge. And 16 gauge is the thickness of the lead of a pencil. So this right here is Bare Bright. This stuff, again, same thickness, but if you look at the difference in color, this is a little bit more discolored. This is going to give me number 1 price. So it's about 15 cents less, which isn't bad, or 10 to 15 cents less, which isn't bad, especially depending on how much you have of it. But this is your top value at Bare Bright. Okay, so again, same thing. These two pipes, doesn't matter how nice and colored, clean this is. These are both going to go into number 1. As well, I do want to point out that in order to go into number 1, it has to be free of any soldering. So unfortunately, I just saw last week someone go into the scrapyard with a great big load of copper. They had all their pipes together, and instead of cutting off the little pieces of soldering and putting those chunks into number 2, he put it all into one load, and all of the copper that was clean, unfortunately, he did not get number 1 price. He got number 2, which is about 20 cents less. So he did lose out on a easy money maker. So you do want to make sure that in order for this to classify as number 1, it has to be free of any soldering as well as paint. I have seen some, like this one, or heavily tarnished. This pipe, unfortunately, because it is heavily tarnished, as you can see, it is like a green color, or if it is painted, any type of that is going to go into number 2, as well as your motor copper. So this all here is actually 44 pounds of just copper bearing motors. This would all, as you can see, really shiny stuff, still all go into my number 2 pile, and that's because all of this is less than 16 gauge. Okay, a piece like this, again, looks nice and shiny, but as you can see, each individual strand is less than 16 gauge. So this is going to go into number 2. And I have had some people, and I totally agree, say, copper's copper. Why would it not be the same? Why not take it and melt it down into ingots? Unfortunately, some scrapyards will not take ingots of copper or other type of material because they're not sure of the purity of them. So before you do that, make sure you check with your scrapyard. Okay, but this as is going to go number 2. Okay, you also have, getting with your motors, you have a pile for copper bearing motors as well as transformers. Each one of these are about 10 to 15 cents a pound, which is a good price, but in my opinion, well worth taking out the copper. You do want to check before you start taking the transformer apart. If I scratch these two and they reveal metallic underneath, both of them, then they're not worth taking out, and I would just bring this in as is. But both of these spools are actually copper, and this copper is going to be worth a lot more money than this transformer. And the beauty of these transformers is once I take the copper out, the rest of this is going to go into my tin shred pile anyway. So I'm not losing any money there. I'm just gaining by maximizing my profit from the copper. I have seen some transformers that are copper, aluminum, some that are aluminum, copper, some that, as I said, copper, copper, which is excellent, and some that are aluminum, aluminum. So definitely scratch them before you take them apart. So transformers, copper bearing motors, and transformers you find on a lot of different circuit boards as well. This is just a small one that I'm going to open. There's going to be some copper in there. Definitely worth taking out the copper. And I have separate videos showing you how to do that, so if you're interested, go check that out. Another pile that we have are batteries. Batteries are separated into different categories. You have your household batteries, as you can see here. And unfortunately, if I bring this up to the camera, you see that one, where is it? That circular one there. You do have to be careful. Some scrapyards will not accept those or the batteries from your drills, for example. So you do have to be careful on that. You do want to make sure you separate them. So these would be household batteries. They're about 10 to 15 cents a pound. And all I do is I store them up into a jar like this and bring them in, or a container. Easy to transport. Another type of battery is your lawnmowers, your car batteries, your boat batteries. These are paid per weight as well, and these are going to be a separate category than your household. So make sure you separate those. Again, batteries. Another thing you're going to have, and you're going to find lots of this while scrapping, is appliance wire. And there are two main categories of appliance wire. You have 60% copper recovery and 40% copper recovery. And what the scrapyards look at is copper to plastic ratio. Here I have two cords. These cords, this thick one here, you can see comes off of a microwave or a dehumidifier, very thick. And if I bring this up to the camera, what you're gonna see obviously is there are 3 strands of coated copper wire inside of that, as well as an outer coating of plastic. Because there is more plastic and less copper inside of this, this is going to be lesser value. So this will give you 40% copper recovery, and currently going right now for $1.37 a pound in Canada, or in Ontario, excuse me, which is still a great price. And as I said, this is, like I said, 40%. Something like this is another wire. This one, if I bring it up to the camera, you can see just 2 individual strands that have 1 individual coating of plastic on it. Because there is more copper and less plastic, on this. This is worth your 60% copper recovery and currently going for $2.13 a pound. So you definitely want to separate them. Make sure, the rule is, as I said, usually if there's two coatings, as this one for example, here's another one, you see the two individual strands that are coated with plastic and an outer coating. This is going to be put in with my 40% copper recovery. And what I do is I store them all up in bags. I've got huge piles of them, which is great. And what I want to do, the last category, is your electronics. These electronics would be, if you would, electronic price. So TVs, laptops, items like that. Once I've pulled out the circuit boards, I can bring those in because there's still goodies inside of those. And circuit boards, which is e-waste, is another category priced here for electronics. So here are a couple of circuit boards that I have. These circuit boards, definitely in my opinion, well worth taking the items off. Look at, you got some beautiful heat sinks here. You got some copper donuts, if you will. These are gonna be worth more taking them off than bringing this circuit board in as is for me. The place I go to right now only gives about 10 cents. I've seen 20 cents for some people, but when I'm looking at extrusion like this, that's worth $1.56 a pound, there's gonna be a couple pounds of extrusion on here. So definitely worth it to take it off. If you don't, like I said, you can still bring these in as e-waste. And depending on where you live, there are different categories. Some places have low grade, medium grade, high grade, depending on the precious metals inside of it. High grade, obviously, with gold. As you can see, this is out of a tower from the computer tower's motherboard. There's some gold there. Some prongs here have gold. So this, if you have the scrapyard that gives you different categories, this one is going to be your higher value. This one, lower grade because there's no precious metals on it. But again, unfortunately for me, the place I go to gives me one price. So you definitely want to check. But again, in my opinion, it is much better to micro scrap this stuff. I have videos on that as well, and definitely better to maximize your profit. So again, some common categories you're going to see at a scrapyard: e-waste, electronics, price paid by pound, number 2 copper, number 1 copper, bare bright, batteries, copper bearing motors, transformers, brass, yellow brass, Christmas lights, clean aluminum, extrusion, cast aluminum, pop cans, stainless steel, steel, and then finally your tin shred. So I'm sure, hopefully with that, there's a couple items that I would have looked over or didn't have in my example, but common items here that you're gonna find while scrapping. So hopefully that answered some questions for you. I appreciate the questions. I definitely appreciate the comments, the views. In 200 videos, I'm amazed at how much my videos have grown and my channel has grown as well. I love working with this scrapping community to help maximize people's profits, as well as divert as much as we can away from the landfill. So an environmental impact, definitely an appreciation as well for me. And again, thank you for all the support. Please comment down below, like, share, subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one. Tin Man out.